Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we unpack the core insights from a whole stack of industry research and real-world experience.
Great to be here.
Today, we're dissecting what might be the single biggest operational shift, maybe even cultural shift, happening in business right now.
And that's the democratization of artificial intelligence.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
such a powerful word for it, democratization. Because AI, as all our sources are confirming, is breaking out of the IT department.
It's not just for the data science labs anymore. Not by a long shot. The companies that are really getting ahead are the ones who see that AI has to be woven into, well, into every single function.
We're talking marketing, HR, finance.
Supply chain, operations, you name it. It's a foundational ground-up transformation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the goal, as we're seeing it laid out, is to get to the state of AI for everyone. But, and this is the huge challenge for any leader, how do you do that?
Right.
How do you scale this powerful technology across a huge, complex company without, losing control or creating a mountain of technical debt?
Or, and this is the big one, without opening up massive new security risks you never even saw coming.
Precisely. That's the puzzle we're tackling. Our mission in this deep dive is to really analyze the core strategy for managing this whole transformation.
And what we've found is a model that seems to achieve both speed and safety at the same time.
And it's built on this deliberate pairing of two forces. On one side, you have this incredible decentralized innovation, the bottom-up stuff.
From people who aren't professional coders, the so-called citizen developers.
And on the other side, you have to balance that raw energy with some centralized control, with guidance.
Which is where this idea of an AI Center of Excellence or a COE comes in. That's the top-down framework.
So the big question for any strategist listening is this: how do you actually unlock all that grassroots AI value without letting it all just devolve into total chaos?
That's what we're going to unpack. We're drawing on some fresh industry research, some really sharp advisory insights, and fascinating lessons from a few recent AI rollouts.
So let's start with the why. Why is this strategic imperative AI for everyone happening right now?
Well, if we start there, the message from all the advisory boards we looked at is it's resounding. AI strategy is simply too big, too all-encompassing to be left to the IT department alone.
That model is just obsolete.
Completely. Treating AI like it's some siloed project that a small tech team owns, that's a surefire way to get slow adoption and, frankly, very limited impact.
That really is the crucial mindset shift, isn't it? We're not talking about just plugging in a new database.
Not at all.
We're talking about fundamentally changing how every repetitive task or decision-making process in the entire company gets done.
Exactly. And if AI is going to touch every process, which our sources say it must, then every business function has to be deeply involved in the strategy, the development, everything.
Which leads you directly to this idea of democratization.
It has to. Organizations are realizing they have to systematically enable their employees, all of them, to use AI in their day-to-day work. It's not just about giving them access to a new tool.
It's about making them stakeholders.
You've hit on it. They have to be stakeholders in the transformation itself.
And the logic behind that is so compelling, especially when you think about the quality of the solutions you get.
Well, think about who knows the problems best. It's the people on the front lines, right?
The domain experts.
The domain experts, exactly. The person in finance running that horribly complex monthly report, or the HR manager who deals with the same 5 benefits questions over and over again.
They understand the nuances, the real pain points, way better than a developer in a central IT team who might be, 10 steps removed from the actual work.
And if you can empower that person, that domain expert, to build or at least co-create the AI solution for their own workflow, the result is just better, it's faster, it's more relevant, and it actually solves the problem it was meant to solve.
And on a purely practical level, it helps with a problem every large company has, the IT bottleneck.
Oh, the strain on IT teams is immense. They are completely overstretched. The demand for new software, new automations, it consistently outpaces their capacity.
So by pushing some of that development capability out to the business units,
IT can finally breathe. They can focus on the really complex stuff core infrastructure, enterprise-wide data governance, the big security questions.
while the business side handles their own front-end automations or reporting dashboards.
It becomes a necessary and much more efficient division of labor.
So this all brings us back to those two core pillars that have to work together. You have this need for speed, but also this absolute need for control.
Yes, it's this perfectly balanced dual approach, Pillar 1 is all about empowering those citizen developers. That's your bottom-up engine for innovation.
They're the ones who know the pain points so they can build high-value things really quickly.
And then Pillar 2, which is, as you said, completely non-negotiable, is setting up that robust AI center of excellence, the COE.
The top-down framework.
That's your architecture, your training, your support, and most critically, your governance, your safety net. That's what ensures everything is secure, compliant, and can actually scale.
You really do need both halves of that equation then.
You do. You need the speed of the grassroots innovators, but you need the safety and control of that centralized framework. It's really the only way to get to AI for everyone without creating an absolute mess.
Okay, so let's zoom in on that first pillar. Let's really define this core engine, the citizen developer. Who exactly are we talking about here?
A citizen developer, or a CD as you'll hear them called, is, well, it's fundamentally just an everyday employee. It could be a business user, an analyst in finance, a marketing manager.
So I'm not a professional programmer.
Not at all. The key distinction is that they're building applications or automations or maybe data solutions for themselves or for their own team.
And they're doing it using approved, accessible technology, right? This isn't shadow IT.
That's a critical point. They're using company-sanctioned tools. We're talking about low-code or no-code platforms where you can, drag and drop components to build a workflow.
And now, more and more, generative AI tools.
Exactly. Tools where you can just use natural language, plain English, to tell the system what you want it to build. So they're creating real business value without needing a formal, complex programming background.
This is really the heart of the democratization movement.
It is, and this isn't just happening randomly. The sources point to 4 really powerful systemic forces that are all converging right now to make the citizen developer not just a nice-to-have, but an absolute necessity.
The first one, and the data on this is genuinely alarming, is the technology skills gap.
It is. The demand for digital solutions is just exploding, but the supply of professional developers, it can't keep up. Not even close.
I saw a number in the Korn Ferry study that was just staggering.
The 85 million one?
Yes. An estimated global shortage of over 85 million tech workers by 2030. That's not just a hiring challenge.
No, it's an existential crisis for a lot of companies. It's a massive, decades-long talent deficit that we're heading into.
A number like that forces you to completely rethink where your innovation comes from if you literally cannot hire enough pro developers.
Then your only other strategic option is to build them, to train your existing workforce, the people who already have that rich domain knowledge, to become your new solution builders.
So the citizen developers are the bridge across that gap.
They're the essential relief valve. They take some of the pressure off the central IT team, letting the pro developers focus on the really mission-critical, complex systems.
Okay, so that's force number 1. What's the second?
The second is all about agility, or more accurately, the lack of agility in traditional IT project cycles.
We've all been there, right? Your team needs a small, tactical fix, a simple automation.
And it gets put at the back of a 2-year-long IT queue, stuck behind some massive enterprise system migration.
And it makes sense in a way. Those big projects have to have long lead times. They need deep architectural planning, tons of testing.
Of course. But the citizen developer completely bypasses that centralized bottleneck for these smaller, localized problems. They bring speed and flexibility.
So a business unit can actually prototype and deploy a quick fix, like a new approval workflow or a data lookup tool, in a matter of days or weeks.
Instead of waiting 6 months for their request to even be looked at, that speed is absolutely transformative.
And that speed, that proximity to the problem, that flows right into the third force you mentioned.
It does. It's the idea that domain expertise, it just leads to better solutions, more relevant solutions.
The MIT Sloan School observation really hit home for me here, that when the frontline staff build their own tools, the software actually fits the workflow.
It removes the translation layer. There's no more game of telephone between what the business user needs and what the technical team ends up building.
It closes that frustrating gap.
It does. The citizen developer is applying their firsthand knowledge of the requirements, the context of their role. They're solving their own problems, and the solutions are just better for it.
Of course, none of this would even be on the table without the fourth factor, which is just the incredible pace of technological advancement itself.
That's the great enabler, isn't it? Modern low-code platforms have just abstracted away so much of the complexity.
The drag-and-drop interfaces for building business logic.
And now, generative AI. The fact that you can use conversational language to build a workflow or set up a database connection or even create a fully functional AI assistant without writing a single line of code.
That dramatically lowers the barrier to entry.
It means a motivated employee with maybe just a week or two of focused training can now automate something that would have required a specialized software engineer just a few years ago.
It feels like an acceleration in capability we haven't seen since, what, the mass adoption of spreadsheets.
That's a perfect analogy,
Uh,
absolutely. So now that we know who they are and what's driving this trend, let's talk about the output, the actual measurable value this bottom-up engine creates.
and speed and scalability seem to be at the top of the list.
They're paramount. Instead of having one central pipeline for all new ideas, you suddenly have dozens, maybe hundreds, of small developers tackling problems in parallel.
It's a grassroots approach that just accelerates everything.
Think about the scaling there. In that benefits administration company we saw in the case study, they didn't just train one central team.
No, they identified and trained AI champions in every single department.
Right. And that distributed model meant that if HR needed an automated vacation scheduler and finance needed a custom expense spot, they didn't have to get in line.
They could both be developed at the same time.
Exactly. And a trained CD in finance can get that done in weeks, not months. That localized, tailored solution is the real superpower of this model.
And there's a huge cultural benefit here too, right? This deep workforce upskilling and engagement.
It's a massive cultural multiplier. By getting employees involved in building these things, you're systematically injecting cutting-edge AI and automation skills throughout the entire organization.
The materials called it turning passionate team members into AI champions.
And that's exactly what it does. It multiplies your internal expertise. Plus, it's a great retention tool. People feel more invested when they're allowed to work on cool projects that actually make their own jobs easier.
They're also learning project management, problem solving, skills that go way beyond just the tech.
You're essentially transforming your power users into innovators. You're building an internal talent bench that's ready for the future, which, given that skills gap we talked about, is just invaluable.
Okay, let's talk about the bottom line, the hard efficiency and cost benefits.
Well, it's just more cost-effective.
Yeah.
Citizen-led, low-code automation is cheaper than hiring huge dev teams or buying expensive off-the-shelf software for every little niche problem.
And there's real data on that ROI.
There is. One study we looked at found that organizations can cut their IT development effort by something like 30 to 40% by using these kinds of tools and approaches.
30 to 40%, that's huge.
It is. It means less money spent on expensive external consultants, massive savings from fewer errors, and just reclaiming all those labor hours that were spent on repetitive tasks. It's a very compelling economic case. Faster, better, and cheaper.
The business case is definitely persuasive,
Mm-hmm.
but this is where I have to bring in the big but.
I know where you're going with this.
Because all of those rewards, the speed, the innovation, they feel like they are totally dependent on one thing.
On making sure this decentralized free-for-all doesn't, as you said earlier, devolve into chaos.
Exactly, which
Yeah.
is a perfect transition point.
It is.
So this is the paradox of decentralization, isn't it? You get maximum speed by empowering thousands of employees to build things. But by empowering that many non-professional developers, aren't you just exponentially increasing your risk?
That is the essential multi-million-dollar question.
How can a central IT team possibly audit and control all of that? How do you maintain enterprise standards when the whole point is autonomy?
And that's precisely why the AI Center of Excellence, the COE, is not just a good idea. It's not optional. It is the absolute necessary top-down counterweight to all that bottom-up energy.
It's the infrastructure that provides the oversight.
The oversight, the support, and most importantly, the governance to manage exactly those risks you're talking about.
So let's define the COE a bit more clearly. What does it look like?
Typically, it's a dedicated team or maybe a cross-functional committee. It's got people from IT, from risk, legal compliance, and from key business units all working together.
It's the compass and the safety net.
That's the perfect description for it. Its number one job is to prevent that Wild West scenario. The advisory materials we saw were very explicit about this. Empowering CDs without strong governance leads to unmanaged, unacceptable risk.
So the COE has to come in with clear policies, design guidelines, mandatory checkpoints.
For every single solution that gets built.
Let's get specific, though. What are the actual risks? An analyst in finance builds a new reporting bot. Other than a few bugs, what could really go wrong?
Oh, the risks are significant and they can be incredibly expensive. First off, you have shadow IT and technical debt.
Right.
An amateur developer might use some free, unauthorized API they found online because it's easy, but it has terrible security or sends company data to a server in a country you're not supposed to.
And they've just completely bypassed the corporate security stack.
Exactly. Then you have licensing nightmares. What if hundreds of your new citizen developers start using a tool in a way that goes way beyond your enterprise license agreement? The bill you get after an audit can be catastrophic.
And the worst one, I think, is the fragile code that IT ends up inheriting.
That's the insidious one. The citizen developer who built the critical thing leaves the company, the tool breaks 6 months later, and now central IT has to spend weeks of unplanned time trying to untangle this undocumented fragile spaghetti code.
The COE's job is to prevent that technical debt from ever building up.
Yes, and that's its first core function: governance and guardrails. This means setting crystal clear criteria on what kinds of projects are appropriate for a CD.
So defining what's too high risk, like maybe a core financial transaction system.
Versus what's perfectly acceptable, like a local reporting tool or a simple workflow automation. The whole goal is to make sure every decentralized app still aligns with security policy, data privacy rules, and quality standards.
But how do you do that in practice? How does a COE realistically check 1,000 new little apps without just becoming another bottleneck?
That's the key. You have to shift from manual, after-the-fact auditing to proactive, automated frameworks.
But you bake it into the process.
You bake it in. The COE provides pre-built, pre-approved, compliant components, standard modules for accessing company data, for example. They also use automated scanning tools that check for known security flaws or unauthorized data access before an app is allowed to go live.
That makes so much more sense. So governance isn't a final exam. It's more like a set of guardrails on the highway from the very beginning.
That's a great way to put it, and it aligns perfectly with that 4Gs framework from Davenport and Barkin that our sources highlighted.
Let's walk through those because it feels like a really solid blueprint for how a COE should operate.
Okay, so the first G is Genesis. This is the promotional part. Getting buy-in from leadership, evangelizing the concept, and making the citizen developer role a valued, recognized part of the company's growth strategy. It's about changing the culture.
Okay, Genesis. Then the second G is guidance.
Right. This is moving from theory to practice. It's about providing the actual training, the templates, the best practice guides, all the resources needed to make sure these new CDs can actually build things that are useful and don't break.
And the third G is governance. This is the more formal piece.
This is the formal alignment and risk management. Defining the review processes, ensuring projects actually map to business needs, and having a clear path for when a citizen-built tool becomes so critical that it needs to be elevated to a fully enterprise-supported application.
And that leaves the last G, guardrails.
And this is the technical safety net we were just talking about. Building in the protection from day one, pre-approved component libraries, mandatory developer checklists for security and compliance, and clear rules about what data can and cannot be touched.
So a good COE, using that framework, isn't actually stifling creativity at all.
No, it's channeling it. It's creating a safe sandbox where 1,000 experiments can run without putting the whole enterprise at risk.
So that's governance. But another key function you mentioned is training and enablement.
Yes, because just giving people a new low-code tool and telling them to go innovate is, well, it's naive. It doesn't work.
The sources were very clear on that. A single virtual course or a few PowerPoint slides just won't cut it.
Not for this.
Yeah.
Citizen developers need proper hands-on training. They need mentorship. They need structured practice to really become effective.
And the COE is the one that has to coordinate that massive upskilling effort.
They are. They design the curriculum, they organize the workshops, they vet any third-party training vendors, and they can even set up internal certification programs. It's a real investment that leadership has to be willing to make.
That AI rollout case study was a perfect example of this in action, wasn't it?
It was. The COE team there coordinated this year-round training program. It was a blend of vendor-led sessions on the specific platforms they were using, and then internal workshops focused on their own company's data rules.
And crucially, the COE team reviewed the early prototypes.
That's the key part. They gave direct, hands-on feedback to the new CDs while they were still learning. That ensures they learn the right way to build things before they try to scale up anything too ambitious or risky.
Okay, so a third essential function of the COE is community building.
Yes, because when development is this decentralized, Communication becomes absolutely critical.
It's the oxygen of the program.
Exactly. The COE has to be the one actively facilitating that communication, setting up internal developer forums, dedicated channels on Teams or Slack.
And those regular show and tell sessions.
Those are so important. It lets people share their successes, but it also prevents the wheel from being reinvented 100 times. A team in marketing might realize they can just reuse a component that the finance team already built.
That sense of community must accelerate the whole program.
It does. It builds momentum and it makes sure that the best ideas and practices spread quickly through the organization.
And all of this rolls up into the final overarching goal, which is alignment with strategy.
Right. The development might be grassroots, but the outcomes still have to support the core corporate objectives. The COE is the North Star, ensuring that all this local innovation is actually pushing the larger business strategy forward, and that data is being used consistently and compliantly everywhere.
So it's about creating these fusion teams, as the sources call them, a bottom-up approach that is always supported by that strong top-down framework. Sounds like a lot of work to set up, but
It is. But the consensus is clear. This model of local speed with central oversight is the only way to really scale AI adoption across the enterprise without taking on an unacceptable level of risk.
okay, so shifting gears a little,
Right.
you've talked a lot about the citizen developers, the people who are building the tools.
Right.
But what about everyone else? The vast majority of employees who are just going to be using these new AI tools every day. There's a massive upskilling need there, too.
There is, because the entire workforce needs a new baseline of AI literacy to function effectively in this new world.
And the single core competency that seems to be driving this new literacy, no matter what your job title is prompt engineering.
Yes, prompt engineering is the art, and it's increasingly becoming a science of crafting really effective inputs, questions, instructions to get useful, accurate, and consistent results from these big generative AI models.
It's the bridge. The bridge between what a human wants and what the AI actually does.
It's literally the user interface for this new generation of technology.
And it's just wild how quickly this skill has gone from being this niche thing for AI researchers to a mandatory skill for, well, for everyone.
For marketing copywriters, for financial analysts, for customer service agents, the assumption that you needed to be a data scientist to interact with an AI model, that assumption has just been completely blown up in the last couple of years.
Because AI is now just baked into daily workflows everywhere. Generating content, summarizing complex documents, analyzing data.
And if you use any of these tools, you are prompting them. The only question is whether you're doing it well or poorly.
And why does that mastery matter so much? I mean, can't you just ask a simple question and get a decent answer?
You can get an answer, but the quality, the reliability, the usefulness of that answer is almost entirely dependent on the quality of your prompt.
Bad prompts get bad results.
Bad prompts get bad results. And think about the cost of that. An employee using vague, sloppy prompts will just waste hours going back and forth, getting irrelevant or even inaccurate information. It slows them down and it erodes their trust in the tool.
Whereas someone who can write a clear, precise, context-rich prompt.
They get better results faster with far less trial and error. It's a massive productivity multiplier.
The sources suggest that prompt engineering is basically becoming the new Excel.
That's the perfect analogy. If you're in a finance role today and you can't use a spreadsheet effectively, you're at a huge disadvantage.
And soon, if you're in any knowledge worker role and you can't prompt an AI effectively, your output will be fundamentally limited. It's the new digital literacy.
It is. And for companies, investing in this broad upskilling isn't just about efficiency. It's a strategic move to empower the whole workforce.
It changes the whole culture around the technology.
It really does, because this is where that crucial mindset shift happens. An employee who is AI literate moves from fearing the technology, worrying about their job being replaced, to actively asking, how can I use this to make my work better, faster, and more interesting?
And that turns the entire workforce into this giant innovation lab.
Exactly. When your employees really understand the capabilities, and just as importantly, the limitations of these tools, they start spotting opportunities for improvement that a central IT team would never even see.
So the smart organizations aren't waiting around. They're actively building AI and prompt training into their L&D programs right now.
The COE is usually the key partner in this, working with HR to build out structured programs. We're talking about things like internal certifications for advanced prompting, workshops focused on using AI for common business tasks.
Or even things like internal hackathons, where teams compete to solve a real business problem using generative AI.
And these initiatives don't just build the raw skills, they send a powerful message from the top down that AI fluency is now everyone's business. It's the foundational layer that prepares the whole company for what's coming next.
And what's coming next is not a small step.
No, it's an even bigger leap.
So, if prompt engineering is what we need to master right now, the strategic future, the next big horizon, is agentic AI, AI agents.
This is a huge shift. This is where the technology moves beyond just generating static content, like a piece of text or an image, and starts taking autonomous actions to accomplish goals.
Without needing continuous human instruction.
Right. We're talking about AI that can complete an entire multi-step task on its own. So instead of just drafting an email for you to send,
An AI agent might read an incoming customer complaint, check the inventory system, process a refund in the finance system, and then send the final confirmation email, all on its own.
end to end. And the efficiency gains that are forecasted from this level of autonomy are they're massive. You have to be planning for this now.
The Gartner Research Board stat was a real wake-up call.
That by 2029, agentic AI systems will autonomously resolve 80% of common customer service issues.
80%.
Oh.
Without any human intervention. That isn't just an efficiency gain. That is a fundamental restructuring of how customer service and other operational departments will function.
It is. And in that new agentic world, the role of the AI proficient employee has to evolve again. If today you're a prompt engineer,
Tomorrow, you have to become an AI orchestrator.
that's the term the sources use, the AI orchestrator.
So what does that role actually look like day to day? How do you even prepare people for that?
The orchestrator is essentially the manager of a digital workforce. Their job is to set the high-level goals for a team of AI agents, integrate them into the business processes, and then monitor them to make sure they're operating correctly, ethically, and securely.
So you move from managing a single input-output loop to managing a whole complex process being run by multiple agents.
You become the strategist, the coach for your AI team. You delegate all the routine work and even some complex research tasks to your digital agents. And that frees you up to focus purely on high-level decision-making, creative problem-solving, and the nuanced human interactions that AI can't handle.
It's that CEO of your own work idea taken to its logical conclusion.
It's the ultimate version of it. Every employee with their team of specialized AI agents is managing their own augmented workforce to drive their objectives. And the companies that are training citizen developers right now are giving their people the exact skills they'll need for this.
The ability to build, direct, and manage an AI-driven solution.
Independently. And the citizen developer role itself, of course, will change too. The CD of tomorrow becomes an agent developer.
So they're not writing Python code.
No, but they'll be using visual, no-code interfaces to configure these autonomous agents. They'll be the ones assembling the AI workers, connecting them to the right enterprise data, and defining the rules of engagement.
And supervising them through some kind of central dashboard.
Exactly, which means, given that these agents will be acting autonomously, processing refunds, booking services, the COE's job becomes even more critical.
Exponentially more vital.
The COE has to evolve from governing simple apps to governing autonomous behavior. They will be the ones setting the policies for how and when these powerful agents can be deployed.
Including the really crucial ethical policies, like determining when a human in the loop is mandatory before a high-risk or irreversible decision is made.
Absolutely. And they'll also have to manage the complex cross-functional coordination. What happens when one agent's task starts in the sales system, has to touch the inventory database, and finishes in the finance platform? The COE has to ensure that all works seamlessly and compliantly.
This really highlights the strategic payoff of doing the hard governance work today.
It does. The companies that already have a strong COE in place, that are already successfully governing citizen development and managing that risk, they are going to be so much better positioned to integrate agentic AI when it really arrives at scale.
They'll avoid the massive corporate mistrust or even the catastrophic failures that will happen in companies that are less prepared.
The groundwork you lay today by training prompt engineers and supporting citizen developers. It's not just for short-term efficiency. It is the absolute foundation you need for the agent-driven workplace of the very near future.
So this has been a really intensive deep dive into what feels like a dual imperative. the need for speed, and the need for safety in this AI transformation.
To kind of synthesize it all, the journey requires a real, committed investment in training, in governance infrastructure, and in proactive change management. But given all the forces at play, it's not really optional anymore. It's a strategic imperative.
And that combination of the empowered citizen developer and the strong AI COE, it creates this really powerful virtuous cycle.
It does. You have engaged employees on the ground solving their own local problems, and you have the COE making sure those high-value solutions can be scaled safely and effectively across the whole company.
And the organizations that embrace this model, they're not just getting an efficiency advantage, they're getting a massive talent advantage.
They're unlocking the creativity of thousands of their own people. They're dramatically increasing the pipeline of new ideas. And, maybe most importantly, they are building an internal talent bench that is fluent in the language of AI.
That internal competency is so vital, especially when you see that projection, that nearly 40%, 39% of workers' core skills are expected to be transformed or even become obsolete by 2030.
That's an incredible speed of change. And the companies that are upskilling their people now are building the organizational resilience they'll need to survive that.
So I think the biggest lesson from all the source material is this: don't let caution turn into paralysis.
Yes. The whole appeal of citizen development is speed and relevance. The forward-looking companies are acting now. They're giving their people the tools, the training, and crucially, the trust to go innovate within those safe guardrails.
And when you get that right, you create an organization where every employee is really operating as the CEO of their own work. They're confidently managing their own augmented AI-powered workforce.
It's a complete cultural shift. It's a culture where technology is embraced at every level to aggressively drive growth and innovation.
We've established that AI fluency is the new baseline, and prompt engineering is the new digital literacy. The career goal now is to become that AI orchestrator, ready for the autonomous future.
Which brings us to our final thought for you, the listener.
Based on this roadmap we've discussed, this blend of bottom-up speed and top-down control, what is the single most important action or skill you need to focus on today to make sure you are ready to be a confident AI orchestrator in your own role tomorrow?